I'm so sorry, I just
That's
remembered
okay.
to do it.
Something we're doing this year that we have not ever done before is taking part in a 2022 not-for-profit holiday gift catalog. We're real excited about doing that.
That's through the Bear Center, correct?
Yes, through the Bayer Center. Yeah, we're real excited about that. This will give us exposure beyond anything we've had, and we're ramping up some of the inventory in the online shop so that not everybody might want to read this, so we're broadening our scope there. So I think we're getting our stuff in this week, but I believe the actual date is the end of November, like the 29th, maybe, I think. So that's big exciting news, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Susan. I can't help but think of David McKibben every time I hear of Joy to Book a Float. And, it brings a smile to my face, and certainly he's well remembered and miss him. I'm sure he would have loved to be here for the 90th anniversary. But every time I hear it, I can't help thinking of
He
David.
loved
He loved.
mispronouncing it on purpose.
Right.
Getting it wrong on purpose. And wow.
Does anyone have anything for Susan based on her report? All right, well, thank you, and thank you to friends as always. With that, Ms. Swagger Wilson will move on to the comments from the commission liaisons, the library board. Welcome to the first time. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Two things. First, it is budget season at the municipality. You're all welcome to attend any of the budget hearings. They're on Mount Lebo website so that you can see them. And also, I know that Robin has a copy of the budget upstairs for the public to see, and we're grateful that you're doing that, and feel free to take a look at it. The real trick to it is everything above the line from what the manager has recommended is what's recommended. Everything below the line is not funded. So as you go through it, you don't have to go through every page. If you just go to the stuff that's underneath, you can see what's not funded if there's something you are particularly interested in. And then you can write to the commissioner, you can show up at one of the meetings, no problem. The other thing is I want to thank Robin for taking about an hour and a half one day to give me a great introduction to the library and everything that's gone on, and also the community relations board. But that was really very helpful so that I could step into the role right away. So thanks to Robin, because that was a big chunk out of her afternoon to tutor the newest commissioner. So glad to be here. Any questions? I have an email. It's awilson@mountlebanon.org, and I do answer emails, so feel free.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody with any questions or comments based on that? All right. Well, that's it for now. We look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
From there, we will move on to my president's report, which, given our time constraints tonight, I'm going to cede my time to any discussion that Robin has. We've already hit the big things. Robin and I discussed when we have a meeting without the time constraints, we'll circle back to the issue regarding the board training and things like that in the future. So just something to keep in the back of your mind, what sort of requirements we want to have. I know we've brought it up probably 2 or 3 times, but I think next time we'll have a more substantive discussion.
Did you want to talk about the my director evaluation at all?
That's true. That is going to be coming up. Thank you for the reminder, Robin. I will be reaching out to you. I know last year we had issues getting the timing right, and then with the numerical system and how people would fill that out. So I'm going to look into the best way, perhaps maybe an online survey this year or something like that, if people think that might be the easiest way to respond. And we'll gather our thoughts, and we will provide that to Robin in the new year, as the bylaws say we should be doing. So that's something we'll work on in the near future. I will reach out to you with the exact means of filling that out this year, okay? So with that, if we have any questions, we can talk about that now. Otherwise, we can move on, Robin, to your director's report.
Okay. As always, I'm not going to read what is actually in the consent agenda. It's 2 months worth of just a list of all of our everything we've been doing professionally out in the community, what we've been doing at the building as far as the facility, fundraising, technology, and all of our many programs. So you have all that there and you can read it at your leisure. And, you know, if you ever have any questions or anything, please let me know. The things I have to talk about this week, again, just wanted to reiterate, Yola Book of Flood is this weekend, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. In addition to the holiday book sale, we'll have treats and like hot cider and chocolate and things like that in this room, and cookies. And local artists will be outside peddling their wares. And we will have events upstairs as well. So the Children's Library has some things planned. We're gonna have live music here. It's gonna be a really nice day out if you can make it.
What date is
Saturday, this Saturday, the 19th,
it?
10 to 4.
Thanks.
Right now, I am working on goals for 2023 and compiling highlights for 2020 of 2022. This is something all the department heads have to submit to Keith every year. And I usually share that with you in the January board meeting. So I will do that. If there are any board goals that you would like me to include or anything like that, let me know. Let's see, we need to schedule some committee meetings before the January meeting. We'll probably need to, the fundraising and advocacy committee will need to meet, and the governance committee should probably get started prepping for next year as well, because the beginning of the year is when the governance committee does the bulk of their work. So we will be talking about that. I'm going to South Carolina the week of December 4th. So I'll be out all of that week, but we can maybe start scheduling when I get back. I know it's difficult around the holidays, but we have 2 months until January 17th. So we should be able to fit in the meetings at some point. And just a couple of fundraising things. November 29th is Giving Tuesday. So we always do a very passive fund drive on that day. And our annual appeal letters will be coming out at late November, early December. So I think that's, oh, the big thing I wanted to talk about, this should only take 5 minutes or so though.
And we've got plenty of time, Robin. I mean, I know we're
I know, we-
working on the deadline, but we're very ahead of
Well,
schedule, so take your
It can
time.
give you a few minutes to go up and maybe walk around the library, take a look around. But
Sure.
so one thing that Jeremy and I have been working on, we've been working on our materials handler upstairs, the conveyor belt in the circulation department. It's a very expensive piece of equipment and it's near the end of its life cycle. Primarily because the company we purchased it from, 3M, was bought out by another company, Biblioteca, and Biblioteca wants everybody on their software, not 3M software. So Jeremy's a master negotiator and he has managed to get us to stay on the old equipment until 2024. But we are talking about getting a new materials handler. And we talked to Andrew McCreary at the finance department, and he said that that's something that is a likely candidate to put in the capital improvements for the municipality. So it shouldn't have to come out of the library's budget. We're working on getting that finalized. So while we're doing that, a lot of other libraries in the county are also getting 24/7 holds lockers. So we're planning to do this. I don't know if you can see it online, but we're planning to put it right outside our library's upper doors. And with a returns bin right next to it, because we know that people that are coming to pick up their holds are also going to bring things back, and we don't want them to have to go around the whole building. So when I mentioned this lightly in passing to the Friends of the Library, they just so happened to have a grant from the Pittsburgh Foundation for about 80% of the cost. So they have already given me a check. Thank you very much for this project. And we should see these lockers installed in early spring. So I just wanted to give you all a heads up about that. Let you know what you can feel free to pass that around. It's it will obviously have a vinyl wrap on it. You can get all kinds of really neat graphic designs with our library logo and that kind of thing.
How does it work?
There's a screen there
Yeah,
And it works pretty much just like our self-checkouts upstairs, if you've ever used that. So
Yeah.
you scan your barcode, enter your PIN, and it will say, these are the holds you have. You select them and hit checkout, and then the locker pops open and you take your items. And you can do that any time of day. If you're out walking your dog at 5:30 in the morning, you
but
can get
that
your
will
holds.
hold the number of holds we have,
We can always expand it.
because that doesn't, I mean, knowing how many books are on the
Yeah.
shelves upstairs, minus the 5 I just took. It doesn't seem like it would begin to hold. the
Yeah, I
number
think
of
that's
holds
something
we
like
have.
42 lockers right there. The big squares at the bottom are lockers for big, I call them McNeil size lockers for Ian and all of his 6 children and their books. So.
It might work if we ban Marcia from using her holds in. Free up some extra room.
We do have a couple of patrons that could very easily fill up every one
Right.
of our lockers, but
So how does it differentiate between what goes to the locker and what doesn't?
so it's actually something that the patron will choose, and it's basically like having a separate branch location. So instead of selecting Mount Lebanon, you select Mount Lebanon Locker or whatever we call it. And then we will know to put it in the locker.
And then
So-
once it's full, obviously, it just won't be an option to send it there if there's no availability.
Yeah, we're going to have a really tight turnaround on that, probably. We're thinking probably like 48 hours.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't pick it up in 48 hours, it goes back on the shelf inside.
So where is the addition, okay, if the Friends have put up 80% of the cost, where's the other 20 coming from?
From our annual appeal, Love Your Library funds,
And
that
how
kind of
much are
thing.
we talking about?
They've given me 19,600, was it? And the total cost is just over 25.
Okay.
So,
So will this replace that holds table that's up in? the
yes,
lobby?
we won't be doing the brown bags anymore. We'll just be using these gold lockers exclusively, as well as, you know, you can always still pick up inside.
Oh, okay, so people can choose to pick up inside. yeah.
Absolutely, yes. But I think a lot of people will enjoy the option of being able to just run up out of their car, grab their holds and go. So
Will you
it's-
restock it on a rolling basis all day or just like once per day?
we haven't figured out all of the logistics
Logistics,
yet.
yeah.
We're probably going to do like a once per shift kind of thing, or maybe twice a day. We do have 3 shifts during most days, so we'll just see how it goes and how much it's used. Bethel Park is actually having theirs installed next week. So we'll kind of get to, usually we're the first to do things like this, but this time we'll get to watch and see how it works for them and what hiccups they have, and maybe be able to figure out some things ahead of time.
And can we go back 1 second? You mentioned the conveyor that Andrew said could go in the capital budget. What kind of price tag does that have?
And I'm going to be
Ballpark,
rough
I
and
mean,
say 150, because I
Okay.
can't remember if the service contract is in that, the number I have in my head or not. So between 120 and 150, I think.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything on this discussion?
And we can go into more detail about all of these things in January. It's all early stages for these projects right now anyway, but I wanted to give you a heads up and let you know what we're working on.
Much appreciated. Anything else as part of your director's report, Robin?
That is all I have on my list.
Hearing no other issues here, we'll move on to our committee reports. And we can start with our finance committee report about the budget workshop for 2023.
Well, Robin and I attended the commission review of the budget last Monday, I think.
Mhm.
There were a few questions, not many. We talked extensively about the e-resources issue and basically made it clear that we were going to pay for them if it had to come out of our fund balance, or if the municipality would be kind enough to give us the extra 15,000. I don't think there will be any changes, but there's always hope that our plea fell on responsive ears. So there were very few questions that
We were the last ones of the night, so.
Yeah.
Everybody was wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to, because of the whole RAD situation that we talked about
Yeah, we talked
last
about that
time, we made sure that they were aware of that kind of thing. And we were going to ask for all of our e-resources to be rolled into our standard service, but because of the the RAD situation where we're losing those funds, we kind of did it a little differently. So it's, the commission is looking at paying for half of the difference of the money we lost, which was about $30,000 when you factor in the gain we received from the state.
And has the RAD issue reached final resolution? I know last time it was very close to getting over the finish line.
I think they finalize in December.
They do.
Okay, so it's still not official, but like, last we spoke, it was likely, but not.
We've been
official.
told that they are going to accept the formula as we turned it in the fourth time. So, yeah, Amy Anderson, our new executive director at ACLA, did an amazing job with the ACLA board and with Rich Hudak, and just going back and forth, and she's just endlessly patient, but she's not a pushover at all. She did a great job just standing up for the libraries and asserting herself. So we were all really, really proud of her.
Yeah, and I will add that they did increase the funding for libraries by 4% this year, which is unprecedented.
Yes.
We have never had such a large increase. It seems like a small amount, but for RAD, it was
Yes.
a good, I mean, we'll take the 4%, and I'm hoping that also that extra little bit of funding helps. And I know that, you know, I want to say I appreciate Robin's leading that committee to rework that formula and appreciate her. I know that Mount Lebanon and some of our other libraries actually had to face cuts.
And there were about 12 of us.
Yeah. And let distressed libraries get that additional funding. So I do really appreciate that. We're trying our best constantly with them. We're happy that the state actually raised funding this year for
Yes.
libraries from
By
59 million to 70 million. So we're always very, very aware of funding for libraries. So just be aware of that.
So that 4%, that's a 4% RAD.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a 4% increase to the total amount of money that they're giving at the libraries.
Yes. Next year.
We aren't receiving
Right,
an increase,
because of
but,
the formula changes,
right.
correct.
We did receive an 18% increase from the state allocation, but it's significantly less than RAD's
And
allocation, so,
the two net out to be about $32,000 loss
yes.
of funds. And at this point in time, our budget, and this is something that I made very clear, our current fund balance is about $260,000. Our loss this year, the budgeted loss plus the 15,000, if we have to pay that, is 60. So we knocked that 260 down to 200 in 1 year. And what concerns me, and I said this to the commission, is the fact that having a $45,000 deficit before we talk about the e-resources, to me, is a structural issue. And if we have 45,000 this year and the RAD formula doesn't change to our favor next year, which I don't think it will do, why are we going to expect that our budget will be in any better shape next year? And we can't take $60,000 hits against our fund balance for very many years.
And we also have very little wiggle room to reduce. I mean,
Yeah,
we
I
can
mean-
bottom out our collections budget or something, but a $60,000 hit to collections would be massive.
We can't do that.
No.
Well, plus we have
Hey,
to.
Robin,
Yes.
I have a question about the whole RAD and the e-resources. Is there any way to just present to RAD to just say, can't they just pay for that off the top? Instead of trying to parcel it out to libraries to then pick up that bill, just like they pay for the computer services that they pay for off the top? Why can't they just pay for that?
Pay for some of it, and then COP pays for a big hunk. and then
Right,
the rest, what's left over is divvied up amongst the libraries, and that's the formula. I'm
Well,
also on the
I
chair.
I understand paying the formula to the libraries to have extra funding from RAD, but what I'm asking is why can't they just pay for the electronic resources off the top? That's just its own thing versus giving us a bill later on that we then have to figure out how to pay for. And splitting that between the libraries. Why doesn't RAD just cover it? And we just call it a day? Has anybody ever asked RAD if they could just do that?
That I'm not sure of. I can't speak for RAD, but I've
Yeah, I know
gotten
you can't.
over the last few years that they're trying to diversify where they're putting their money. It's not primarily, while it is primarily still the libraries and like the park systems, they're also reaching out to a lot of smaller arts programs and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something Amy would be willing to talk to them about, or if she has talked to them about already, but it's certainly something to think about.
Definitely.
Anybody else on this topic? Okay. Do we have anything from governance, Mary, while we have you on?
No, obviously we need to meet. So I know we need to set up our schedule for next year. I know there were some things that were being prioritized and they were still being looked at the last time I checked with Robin on it. So some of those policies we need to update. So hopefully Eve and Bob and I can get together sooner than later, and we'll have our schedule hopefully for next year set as well.
Sounds good. And that wasn't meant to put you on the spot, just give
No,
you.
that's all right.
Thank you for the update. And with that, I believe we're done with committee reports and can move on to old business. Robin?
I just would like Bob to talk about the comprehensive plan meeting he attended last week, as he is our board liaison.
Sure. Although I think it was about 3 weeks
Was it?
ago. Yes.
Yeah.
They
time
all
goes-
start to run together. after
Time
that.
goes fast, yeah. About a month ago, Robin asked me if I wanted to be our liaison on the comprehensive plan committee. I said, I can only see out of one eye right now, Robin, but I would be happy to. So I attended their first meeting virtually. It was a meeting that was led by Ian McMeans, as well as the group that the municipality hired to put together the plan, whose name escapes me right now. There you go. What I learned is that currently, at least at the time of the meeting, they were in the explore phase, which is phase 1 of the comprehensive plan. This is a process that's going to go all the way through to later next year, but they are in, at the time of the meeting, phase 1. I know that phase was going to end, I don't know if it's this last week, this week, next week. It was pretty close, sometime in November. The information gathering and the community outreach portion of the comprehensive plan was going to be wrapping up sometime right around now. They've been collecting information from the community for the last several months about what sort of projects, improvements, long-term dreams, hopes, goals for Mount Lebanon. They were set up at a number of different events and locations in Mount Lebanon to collect data. They have this really fantastic website called ascendlebo.com. I'm not sure if anybody's been on it, where you can click on an interactive map and see a bunch of the fun things that people have recommended for long-term planning for Mount Lebanon, and you can like reply to things and vote things up,
There's
and
some
it's,
arguments on there.
yeah, I'm sure that
Thanks.
I'm sure there are.
Did you say send Lebo?
Ascend
ASC.
Lebo, yes. They gave us a rundown of some of the things they're seeing over and over again in community feedback, as far as, again, improvements to Mount Lebanon and stuff, and then asked us for not just our personal opinions, but represent our board and the places we work for. I said, first thing first, I know you already talked to Robin, so we fully back up whatever she told you. And then additionally, I mean, some of the things that have come up again and again and again are obviously things that would benefit the library. It's sort of like increased bike lanes and uptown projects and more uptown events. I'm sure we would have a presence at. And so anything that sounded sort of library helpful or library adjacent, I spoke up for. Sure. There are going to be, I believe, 2 more of these big meetings with all the liaisons and Ian and the group, and they're spaced out by like 3 months. So like there's going to be another one in March and then another one next summer. So I guess I will be attending those as well.
That would be wonderful.
And I think that's it, unless anybody had any questions.
There will be more opportunities for all of us to give input as we go further along. But we needed somebody from the board to be able to attend the meeting, and Evan.
I thought it would be helpful to have somebody with board eligibility after this spring on there, since the projects can go through next year. So after speaking with Robin and your experience working together in the past from a community relations standpoint, thought that might be helpful as the board liaison. So we're thankful that you're putting the time.
Dude,
in there, Tom.
I gave them like a full 10 minutes from the library's viewpoint. Then I teamed up with Ron Davis and we went on about youth sports in the area for about another 10 minutes. And then I said, while I'm here, do you want some personal insight too? So yeah,
There
they
you go.
couldn't shut me up.
Did you ask for pickleball?
I did not.
Indoor swimming pool.
I do believe pickleball is on some of those lists though.
Number one.
Indoor swimming pool, I definitely saw on the list.
Yes.
Definitely.
I
That would
hope
be
so.
fabulous.
We'll
Well,
see.
in time
Or even a
for,
dome. on the outside.
time to actually use the swimming pool, it's not being used by kids or sports
true.
teams or. That'd be great.
I just want the municipality to buy the movie theater and then put me in charge of it, but no one will do it.
All right. Anybody else with any other questions or concerns or library related suggestions for Bob, other than our own personal wish list for that better belongs on Ascend Lebo?
If you put that indoor swimming pool in those lockers right there.
We
Get
can
some swimming
actually,
in, take a break, read your book, go back, do some more exercise.
We
we
put it on
can,
Hillary's third floor, probably.
we can actually do lockers anywhere in the community if we,
Yeah.
I mean, we could put some on Beverly Road, we could put them in the mall,
That's
we
interesting.
just have to get the.
It does take
you know,
worker power to get it there and back.
They told me,
Right, that's the main thing is the staffing to
Yeah.
handle it.
you might know this, but they told me because when the bike lanes was one of the things, and I said, I know we'd like the bike lanes because we have our book bike now. And that's, and they're like, you know, we ran a, they're like, we actually stole your idea. They like ran a bike to
They did, I saw
activities
them, they were at the
to
arts market.
collect information if as part of this phase. And they're like, we basically got that from the library. So,
The book bike. I'm
I would recommend everybody go to that website and check out that map. It is really
It's so
interesting.
cool.
Mhm.
All right, well, thank you for the update, Bob, and the time you put into doing that on behalf of the library. And with that, I have no other old business, and I don't see anything on our agenda for new business. So we're doing well with our time here. So we will include our advocacy moment with, which instead of what have you read or watched lately this month, Rob and I thought, given the 90th anniversary, it'd be appropriate if we each just shared a memory we had of the library. So I guess I'll begin here and we can work this way around. Sorry, Mary, I think you'll be last there on the screen as we come around. But you know, looking back, there are a lot of good memories, and the thing that really kept coming to mind was my early days on the board and some of the first events I attended. One of which was the garden party with the big brass band outside when we overdid it on the budget a little.
That's a really good band though.
It was that was
Made no
really
money.
enjoyable, and the first year that I was here to participate in the Brews for a Chilly Night and just being a young board member and volunteering and or attending those events will always stand out. Though it's also great memories now with my son coming and seeing the trolley and things like that. He wanted me to pass along to the board, by the way. He asked, Dad, are you in charge of the library? I said, no, buddy. I help make some decisions for the library. He goes, can you tell them they should always be open? So there's the thoughts from a almost 4-year-old. Is
Oh, there's some service
24-hour
level 5.
service in the library now. But I'll have to tell him about the lockers. Maybe he can do that. So that's my memory. Monica, if you'd like to go next, we'll go around this way.
Then the library really would always be open. So I had a COVID baby and couldn't really take him out or do anything because I had him in February, or I'm sorry, of January, and then, you know, everything locked down by March, January of 2020. So bringing him to the library has been really amazing because it is just, at first it was just a space with just books. There weren't any materials, but now that things have started to be brought out, various like children's puzzles and games, and there's like a kid's microscope and all kinds of little things for him to explore and play with, and I can't get him out of the library now. So that for me has been my real amazing moment, is just seeing how much he's just blossomed into a library lover.
That's sweet. I think I was not born a library person, but I shortly thereafter, my whole life I've been in some library somewhere. And being here, I was active in the library as a young person, but then my children came here to the library and all of the things that different from what happens now, but story time and just activities and being with friends and sharing with other young moms. I would bring kids one day and then the next week, you know, the neighbor would bring kids and that would free up some time. It was just really, truly, the community itself just is part of this library. And one of my favorite places to be is here. And if there's any, when I was asked to volunteer out here, I thought, I don't know about that. And then I thought, well, sure, you can do that. And then it's just been, it's just one of the best places to be. It's all good all the time. So thank you.
Well, my kids love coming here. But they always get really excited, especially with the, they really enjoyed the cracker news. That was, yeah, they would always look forward to that. And when we were coming consistently week after week, they would meet up with people who also came week after week. So they were friends with the library. And it was always really fun. And I've always been a book person. The library is, where whatever library has always been exciting to me. So I'm one of those people who gets super excited and checks out too many books at a time. So I try to control myself now since I have kids to round up when I go home.
My favorite memory is my granddaughter, who's now 6, at age 3, pushing the button for the trolley, running down, running back, pushing the button for the trolley, down, back, just at least 20 minutes of entertainment for a 3-year-old.
We told them to make that button extra tough because we knew that's what.
Yeah, so this library, to me and my family, means so much. It's not that much more than the traditional library offers resource of knowledge, but it's more to my family's this resource to, especially when you get stuck. And it also at the beginning when we came here 8 years ago, when we checked the community, everything looks great, but I have an issue with electricity. Is a problem here. And I came from Washington DC area. I have friends from all over the world. So that was the doubt of whether we want to move here or not. So I went and happened to the library happened to have it vet. So reading people from different newcomers. So I joined and I found a group of Chinese and they were brought all kinds of their snacks and things, and then some of them so warm. They said, well, this is a wonderful place, you know, you should come join us, and we have this is the plan, and we can take you to the Chinese area, this and so. And then I met also people from Brazil, from Russia, from all kinds of people from that group. But it's just this library, it becomes such a, I just didn't expect that it would be such an introduction place for me, and it opens my world. And of course, later on, I was getting more and more involved, and my family, my brother came from China, and he had been involved with the gardening club, the garden group for over 5 years, and that's his new American family. So the library for us has meant a whole lot to us, and I'm very proud to serve the library.
Thank you. So I'd love to share library stories. That's why I'm serving as an ACLA board president. I actually moved from New York City to Pittsburgh about 30 years ago, and the first thing I did was actually get a library card. This was the Squirrel Hill Library because we were at Carnegie. My husband was at Carnegie Mellon, and so that was the closest one. And so I've been a book lover for years and a borrower of books. But what really I think made me want to give back, I've been a donor to libraries, donated for many years, was when I had the kids. And, this was right after 9/11. I was in New York on 9/11. I had gone home and my daughter had been born that year. She was born in July and 9/11 happened in September. And that changed the world for Muslim Americans. I'm a Muslim American. And then I had to really watch. I wanted to raise children that were optimistic, positive, loved learning, loved their community. And the only way, so I had to really, I wanted to protect them because they were very tender and young. I had 3 under 3. And I wanted to make sure that they had that positive outlook. So I kind of protected them from the internet, from television, and actually spent a lot of time in the libraries. The libraries in that whole region, so the C.C. Miller Library, the library in East Liberty, the Squirrel Hill Library, the Swissvale Library. I mean, libraries everywhere throughout town, wherever we happen to be. I'm like, oh, there's a library, let's stop by. But I want you to know that there was so much negative publicity around Muslims and who they were. One of the most, I think, affirming things for my family was walking in once to the Squirrel Hill Library and seeing a display on Ramadan. Ramadan is the month of fasting for Muslims. And there was a display kind of celebrating our, Muslim life and culture, and it was for children. Oh my God, the children didn't really understand, but believe me, as a parent, it made me so, I was so like, so touched by it. And I actually went and, told the librarians, I'm so grateful that you decided to celebrate Muslim culture, Muslim life. And I don't think they really understood, but it was the first public affirmation of the other that I had ever experienced, and just made me a devoted lifelong fan. I mean, even more so. And so I was like, I need to get back somehow, in some way. And I haven't forgotten, the kids are now in college. And they're quite balanced. I knew I did a good job when I had a 13-year-old son, loved Pride and Prejudice. I was like, good job, Mom. Because there are very few teenage boys who absolutely get all the humor and love Pride and Prejudice.
Right.
So I was like, that's good. And they're all in college now, in different, one's is a senior they went into chemical engineering, computer science, and pre-med. One is doing pre-medicine, but they love literature. I was a humanities person, and so when I got the chance to serve on the ACLA board, first just as a board member, this year as the president, I just felt that was my way of giving back. Yeah, so it's lifelong commitment.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so thank you for letting me share that.
Good stuff. I have learned not to walk into the library at the same time my wife does. I'm a destination person, right? If I have to be at that whiteboard, I'm gonna get to that whiteboard. Right? She loves what we call the art wall as soon as you walk in. All right.
All the time.
And so I walk in and, I'm like running downstairs to the bookseller or wherever I'm going, and I look around, it's like, where'd Nicole go? Oh, yeah, she's still back up there. And what is fun for her and less for me, just who we are, is the number of times that she looks at one of those pictures or photographs or whatever it is. And, if either she knows the woman who did it, or she's friends with someone who knows, whatever. And those, you were talking about a community. And sometimes community is not necessarily who you're sitting right next to, but it's also who you know, et cetera. And I have learned that either she has to go in a couple of minutes ahead of me, or I have to do what I'm not very good at, which is stop and wait. So, but I'm learning.
Libraries, I've always thought were part of my DNA. My mother started her friends group in a library in West Virginia, was president for 22 years because nobody else would do it. I spent my teen years schlucking books at book sales. We spent family vacations, never passing by a library, but always having to stop. But my fondest memory of this particular library, and I'm dating myself, is completing this particular library. I was very, 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 very involved in the funding and the project management and everything, and completing this from what it used to be to what it is now. I wish we could have done a few things differently, but I think we did a pretty damn good job, given that it's now been, 30 years, 20 years, 30 years. No, 1994.
Mm.
1994.
Closing in on 30
So we're
years.
closing in on 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we dug the footers and it rained and they all filled up with water. And I mean, I can tell you the issues. So that being able to sit here in what was the children's library is probably my fondest memory. And yeah, that's dating myself.
Yeah, I'll echo what a couple other people said. My best memory is wrapped up with my kids as well, because it's not a secret. I don't check out books from this library at the rate that some other people on the board do. I am always more interested in the programming and the community outreach we do in that sort of aspect of the library. And when my two daughters were young, especially my oldest daughter, I guess she was 1 or 2, whatever the age is at the time. And I was a stay-at-home dad and freelancer at the time. And I brought definitely my oldest daughter every week, and my younger daughter, some of the times became a storybook hour for the little kids. And I was just here sitting crisscross legs on the floor with her every single week for like 2 years. And or however long it was. And I just have so many good memories of being with my little, who are now teenagers that just run away from me. But
They do come back.
yeah, and
They do come back.
but it was, so it's not, it's fond memories of me in this building with my children, and it's also what first made me think they've kind of got their shit together at this library, and I'm gonna keep an eye on some of the programs they're offering and some of the things we're doing here. And as my girls have got older, that's kind of stuff with me, so.
Okay, so, I mean, I have to start in 1999 when I first started working in libraries, or when I was a kid, I don't know. As a kid, we didn't really go to the library very much, like a couple of times a year, maybe. We were in the country, the nearest decent library was a half an hour away. But I had just tons of books in my house. My mom's a reader. I always had lots and lots and lots of books. And I helped in the school library with Mrs. Wentz when I was in, 3rd or 4th grade, helped her put books away. I just always, I think, was meant to be a librarian and didn't really realize it. I took an aptitude test in high school for my career, and it was like 94% or something that I was supposed to be a librarian. So it all worked out. Everything just all worked out that way. But I have a couple good memories, and I'm going to try and be quick. But I love it here. My first memory of here is when I was actually thinking about applying, and I made the drive up from Ohio to visit the library, and it was like 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, and this place was just hopping. And that's not what I'm used to seeing in local libraries, but just everybody was here doing everything. There were people playing chess, they were reading the paper, they were talking, and there were tutors, and there were kids after school, and people out in the garden. And it was such an amazing, exciting, energizing place that I had to apply and just see if I could be part of it. But probably my most valuable library experiences were when I was the head of teen services for Akron Summit County Public Library. I was also in charge of the Summit County Juvenile Court Library for the inmates for several years. And you really got to know those kids. And I mean, they had serious issues and had done some really, really terrible things. But when you don't know their records and you don't know their rap sheets, you just see them as people and kids. And some of them, I mean, there were kids in there as young as 9 sometimes. And I remember one little boy saying, "This place isn't bad," because he got to eat every meal and he was warm and clean and dry. So it was better than home for him, and that was heartbreaking. I went home and cried that day. But to be able to give those boys books and watch them like really get excited about reading and finding new authors and waiting for the newest Kamali True book to come in and talking about books. I did a book club with them. I remember we read the what is it, the Almost True Story of a Diary of a Part-Time Indian. They loved that one. They loved it. And I was reading parts out loud and they were cracking up, and it was just, I really felt like, what I was doing had meaning. So that's my best library memory. It's also some of my worst library memories, but it's my best.
All right, Mary, your turn there.
Well, so I have a similar story to Robin that I've always been in libraries. And I was a teen librarian as well and had 2 volunteers that I'm aware of, if not more, who've gone into becoming librarians as well, who've gone on to grad school and are now working in libraries. Even though I'm no longer a librarian at the moment, I still volunteer heavily at, well, I have in the past heavily at this library. I was part of the RFID project, so I enjoyed having skills that I had developed and being able to use them here. And I worked at all of the chili brew nights and all these other things. And I still go to the National Book Festival and was a manager again for that this year. So that was kind of a cool thing. So even though I'm not directly involved anymore, libraries are still very important. And as far as this one goes, again, in addition to the RFID, and I get my husband to volunteer. He and I both do whatever MJ or MA needs us to do. And then my son, we moved up here 10 years ago. So we missed the summer that year, but he did the book bowl thing. I can't think of what we call it, but the book bowl thing in the summer a couple times. And we enjoyed having him still be involved with libraries when he was younger. So we missed all the story times. But he was still able to do those things. And he actually did his Eagle project for the library. So
And he was the original 1.0 version of the book bike because he
Yes.
painted that cart for us that we used to, that heavy vintage wooden Italian ice cart that we. would-
yeah, so if you're missing it, it's sitting on my front porch. It will eventually be a coffee table or something for him when he's out of college. Take the wheels off and there you go.
It was adorable and it worked great for us for as long as we could do it. But Rachel and I are too short to push that thing. We had no leverage. So another exciting thing about Mary is Carla Hayden, our Librarian of Congress, knows her by name.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, she was my public library seminar professor at University of Maryland before she was the Librarian of Congress. So
Small world sometimes.
Well, I think our other participant dropped out. Is that right,
Yes.
Robin? So I think that's it for the advocacy moment. We have a motion to adjourn with about 5 minutes left. Good job, everybody, on time tonight.
Really
So on time
excellent.
to get upstairs for the 90th anniversary.
Next
Thank you,
door.
Anthony, for the motion. Oh, next door, not upstairs. The walking around had me thinking there was part of it upstairs. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcia. All in favor, raise your hand, make yourself known. All opposed, hearing none. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks. Bye, Mary.
Thank you all for letting me have the last.
bye. See you next time.
Walk next door.